gentlemen, we're going to ask that you take your seats so that we may get the program started. Actually, before we get seated, may we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God. Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. My name is Camille Whitworth. I'll be your moderator tonight for Mayor LaToya Cantrell's community budget hearing, the first of several. So we're all excited to be here this evening. We are all here to hear directly from you, the residents, of course, on your priorities for the 2024 city budget. Now, as you well know, Mayor Cantrell and her administration, they're hosting meetings within each council district to engage with the public so that you're able to provide input on how the city should allocate funding for city services and priorities. This process was designed to provide greater access to the budgeting process and transparency to ensure that city government works for you. Now, there are some guidelines on how this meeting tonight is going to go. Question and comment cards, they were provided at the beginning of this meeting. We're going to ask that you turn them into staff. They're walking around up and down the aisles for a response during the question and answer portion of the meeting. A lot of times we get multiple questions on the same issue. Those questions will be grouped with the others and will be responded to only one time. Also, you're reminded to keep your questions or comments concise, to the point, and of course relevant. Also, a survey was provided to each of you. The city encourages all of you to complete and submit it before the end of this meeting. If you are in need of a comment card, raise your hand. Someone in the audience will bring it to you. There are folks here and there are folks here. Also, we just want to make a note that there is a Spanish translation station or translator there in the back of the room should you need it. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring up Bishop Tyrone Jefferson, Abundant Life Tabernacle.
Can we all bow our heads as we shall pray? Father, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. We come today just to say thank you. We thank you for your goodness and for your mercies towards us. Your mercies are new every morning, and for that we say, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. We thank you for this day that you have made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. For your word says, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you. We thank you, Father, for our great city. We thank you for our great mayor and her stellar leadership. And we pray, God, that you will continue to lead her and guide her in the ways that you will have her to go. For your word says the steps of a good man or woman are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his ways. We thank you for our city council. We pray, God, that you will bless them now in the name of the Lord Jesus. And we come in today to thank you for every citizen of this great community, this great city. Bless us in the name of the Lord Jesus. And even, Father, bless every department in the name of the Lord Jesus. Bless our coming together in the name of the Lord Jesus, even on tonight. Allow your love, allow your peace, your joy to fill this place like never before. We pray for unity. We pray for one accord in the name of the Lord Jesus. And Father, we declare, eye had not seen, nor ear heard, nor has it entered to the hearts of man what you're going to do for this great city. We give you praise and we give you thanks. Bless us tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Bishop. Next, we'd like to bring up LaVon Jackson. Come on up, LaVon. With the Amelia Subdivision Association. Hand clap, yes. And all of the representatives.
First, I want to say, whose house are we in? D's house, District D house. So I need to hear y'all. Y'all too quiet out here. It's all for us. I first want to thank the mayor and her staff for putting on a program or putting on the resources, and our councilman who's over District D. We have the largest district, okay? So I want to let you guys know that this is D's house, and we run this house, right? Right? So whose house is it? Whose house? Who run this house? That's what I want to hear. We want to thank you guys for including the community, because we know this is not a hard task. This is all about us. So I'm just going to introduce myself to some. I am LaVon Jackson. I am the president of Malia Subdivision Association. Our boundaries are from Downman Road to Francis Drive. And our motto is, anything about us without us is not for us. So we thank you for including all of us tonight, because we know that if you don't hear what we're saying, you're going to feel what we're saying. So, and when we say that, we mean we go and vote for what we want, right? So whose house? Whose house? Who run this house? Thank you.
Ms. LaVon, thank you. Councilman Green, wow, you have some great assistance there. All right, without further ado, I've gone over the purpose, I've gone over the rules, I've gone over everything that we should expect this evening. It should be full of education and a lot of what you would like to hear about. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the mayor of the city of New Orleans, Madam LaToya Cantrell.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, good evening, and thank you all so much for being here in Dee's house at McDonough 35. We thank Inspire NOLA and the McDonough 35 family for hosting the city of New Orleans this evening. Before we move forward, I would like to ask our councilman, Eugene Green, to say a few words, and then I'll give you some opening remarks relative to the budget, and then we'll get into hearing from you all based on what you would like to see relative to our budget for 2024. So with that, Councilman Green.
Good evening, and welcome to Dee's house. That's kind of a new one, but we are doing some positive things, and I want to thank the members of the Malia subdivision, a historic subdivision in our city that not too many people know about, between Downman Road and Francis Drive, between Dwyer and Chef, a very important community, and its members are very committed to positive developments in their community, and I'm very proud of the work that they do. And you know, a couple of things have happened in the community, and we're going to be doing a lot more in the very near future. This is the first neighborhood association of the 22 that are in District D to have its own headquarters, and they recently dedicated a building that was donated by a resident of Malia just for the headquarters of the Malia subdivision. And so thank you very much. And I'm going to take just a minute because this is an opportunity to talk about the budget, but I do want to say welcome to District D. District D, and I'm just so pleased to represent this district, is the area in which I grew up. I grew up in the Pontchartrain Park subdivision in Sugar Hill and also in Gentilly Terrace. I also attended schools in District D, Bradley, which is now Bethune, Francis Gregory, and St. Augustine High School. I am so pleased that my children had an opportunity to attend school in the district, and that we have an opportunity to celebrate the fact that I was able to raise my 3 children right there in Gentilly Terrace, all 3 of whom are college graduates. My daughter's in medical school. My son is on his way to law school. And there are just so many things that are positive that are going on. I'm actually celebrating just last Saturday my 40th anniversary with my wife, and we lived all our lives right here in District D. So the backdrop of that message is that I want to say thank you to the mayor for having this occasion for us to discuss the budget. I want to thank the department heads, those who are the heads of agencies, those who are the head of offices, for the work that you do. Sometimes it can seem like there can be more negativity coming than there should be, but I just want to make it clear that I appreciate the work that is going on in my community relative to policing, relative to blight reduction, relative to the street work that has been done, relative to the health outcomes relative to some of the positive things that make a difference in the quality of life for our city. Doesn't mean that I won't have certain criticisms later on, but at this time, it's important to celebrate the fact that we're moving in the right direction. Yes, violent crime is down. Yes, some of those street jobs are being completed. Thank you, Sarah and Joe, for having those meetings with representatives of various departments, the sewage and water board and the like, and also for having these public meetings such as we just recently had at City Park with Public Works and Sewage and Water Board. Those do make a difference. Interestingly enough, I'm not necessarily happy with the crowd that is here, but I will tell you this, and Michael Burnside is going to help me to spread the word. Maybe it's because, Madam Mayor, some things are going on and that people are feeling comfortable about the future and they don't feel, now look, we just had a meeting at City Park where there were 250 people. So, I mean, that was also an indication of the fact that people are still very interested. But I think that people feel that some positive is going on. I do a newsletter which goes out to thousands of people, and I have a chance to put in there some of the successes, the blight reduction, the removal of automobiles, and the like. I don't want to spend too much time because this is an opportunity to talk about the budget, about the future of our city. I look forward to working with the administration, all of the leaders with the administration, to come up with a budget that satisfies the needs of our citizens in whatever way that we can. But as I close, I just want to say it's good to see those who are here today. I appreciate the work of the administration, and I'm very, very bullish on the future of the city of New Orleans because I've experienced greatness with regards to this city. I couldn't have thought of another place to raise my 3 children other than right here in the city, and I spent some time away. So let's just work to make so that everybody can feel the same way that I can about the positive things that are happening in our city. So thank you all very much for being here today, and I look forward to your questions if they come.
Well, thank you again, Councilman Green. You have been a partner, I will say, with the administration. I appreciate you highlighting the real work of the men and women who lead departments, who lead over 4,000 city employees every single day, rolling up their sleeves on behalf of the residents of this city. Anytime we come together like tonight, when you have our directors that are present, it's always the best opportunity to share and say to you all personally that I appreciate you, and you've also heard from the councilman that he appreciates you. Thank you for what you do. Please, public, give it up to the people who run city government. And I also want to recognize the fact that the city of New Orleans is hiring. It takes people who understand that they need people to make things happen for people. And so those who have answered the call of public service, it is service. And when you serve, your entire family also is on that front line right along with you, regardless of the capacity that you serve in. From public safety on up and on down. These are the people that I depend on. These are the people that hear from me almost daily. I check my own emails. I respond. I don't have a backlog, and it doesn't matter who you are. I will respond, but just like my people understand, they know I respond to you, I also give it right to them, and collectively we set the tone about how we govern, how we lead, how we serve, with all residents being a top priority for us, which also includes the visitors that come to the city of New Orleans as well. Just had to say that. But this is about the budget. And this is about the budget for the year of 2024. We know that we're in 2023, and we also know come July of every year, it's our time to focus on where we are, but also where we want to continue to go in the city of New Orleans. But I have to say this. We always have to have an understanding of where we've been, kind of reminding us of that. Because sometimes as you move through and you get over a challenge, you just keep going. And sometimes it feels like folks kind of forget where we've been and how we've managed our way through. So starting this budget presentation, and now you have things on the slide, but I'm not speaking from a slide or doing a PowerPoint. You'll see that, but I'm speaking from my own notes. Talking about in the year of 2020, you all know that we had to experience COVID-19 along with the rest of the world. The city of New Orleans, and based on COVID, we had unprecedented fiscal challenges and crises that we faced. No doubt about it, just like other cities across this country, we know it, we felt it. We had a $100 million gap, meaning within our budget, going into the year of 2021. We had a 2020 budget that we had adopted, going through our normal process for the year of 2020 at $725 million. Post-COVID, for that year, we had to reduce it because of revenue loss to $680 million. In 2021, I fought very hard for a direct allocation of American Rescue Plan dollars that came from the federal government. Initially going through COVID, the CARES, remember that CARES Act. Those were dollars that came to the state of Louisiana and therefore directed to the city, but we did not get our full complement. $70 million we have still yet to be fully reimbursed for expenditures that we had in that particular year. But that's really what caused me to fight as hard as possible with my brother and sister mayors across the country for that direct allocation, meaning bring it to the city of New Orleans. We need our money directly. We don't need a pass-through. We do not need to be cut off at our knees when we're doing the work, and we absolutely need our resources. That direct allocation in 2021 came, but it came in two tranches, as they call. We received that first tranche, which was $194 million. The total complement, $388 million. Again, we didn't get it all at the same time. But that first complement, we were able to, one, fill that gap that we were experiencing. It was truly a game changer. I don't know where we would be without that direct allocation. But we received it, we plugged a hole. It then allowed us to not only move forward, but to adopt a budget for 21 at $633 million. And then we worked with the New Orleans City Council, of course, to get it passed and adopted, but also to make mid-year adjustments, meaning as we were spending money, as we were seeing progress made, as we may needed to reshift dollars to another area where we were doing more work in, those came through as mid-year adjustments with the New Orleans City Council to, one, show progress, get additional money to keep things moving. We saw in 2022, again, still recovering, right, from COVID-19. But we also began to see, because of the tough decisions that we had to make as a city and as administration and as a team, that we saw this city bouncing back, and sometimes in ways and at levels that we did not expect, meaning tourism bounced back faster, it bounced back stronger. The city of New Orleans began to meet or make these large, I would say, get on these national and global lists of being the fastest to return in the world, but also in the United States. This was helpful to us. We then adopted the 2022 budget, $652 million. So again, progress, right? Steady progress. But all with the thoughts and using data trends, national trends, so that we can be conservative, but at the same time, make sure that we were spending money wisely, looking at projections, and we saw, based on that data, that we really needed to plan for a recovery that would be over a span or a period of time, meaning that 2025. So as we're approaching 2024, again, these practices being modest in how we move, but being fiscally responsible, which is always, in my perspective, It's kept this city going, and it's kept this city strong, and it's kept this city viable. So with that, we were able to adopt a 2023 year budget at $1.4 billion. This is combined with our capital budget as well. But it allowed us, again, to plan for shortfalls moving into 2025. But it also put this city in a great position right now. We have a fund balance, again, looking at moving 23, 24, 25. We plugged and utilized this fund balance, focusing again on being modest, but being steady in our approaches. This is why the city, the administration, and the New Orleans City Council, we agree on this, that there should be no roll forwards in regards to increasing taxes at all in the city and with all agencies and entities that even see some space where they can roll forward. We're saying collectively, no, because we've used money wisely, we are making it work for us, and this is not the time to put an added burden on our people. And then as we're looking at inflation, as well as the property assessments that recently hit, we understand, we see them, we'll be working with you, with your assessor as well, but we are in agreement that now is not the time because we have been doing a great job managing our finances, managing your finances. So this year in 2023, $124 million through ARPA dollars were put directly into priorities. And these are priorities that I expect will continue to be moving forward, but this is my check-in and our check-in with you, the public, to determine, again, if we're aligned in our thinking, if we're aligned relative to priorities and where we need to spend the money. So with that, we saw an increase in public safety resources and looking at public safety always through that lens of public health, addressing root causes, again, no doubt about that. We've seen in terms of response times, in terms of emergency and non-emergency calls, in June of 2023 were the lowest since October of 2022. We're seeing progress. We're seeing progress as it relates to violent crime in our community, trending downward. We're doing the right thing. The men and women of the New Orleans Police Department continue to show up, continue to serve us, and we're continuing to see progress in that regard. It doesn't mean that we're not experiencing some levels of violent crime. But what it does mean that we're smarter about it, we're getting smarter about it, we have tools that we're purchasing or that we've purchased, we have strategies that are being put in place, and we're seeing results from that work. We're on track this year alone in terms of our recruitment. Our superintendent on yesterday started a new class. We had over 33 recruits that were in that class, but we're looking at this year being able to graduate 50, potentially more, but we're moving in the right direction, and we are hiring in the city of New Orleans, which also speaks to public safety, every level. You know that we secured $10 million in terms of the ARPA dollars. We used it to develop Thrive Kids program, and this is something that was near and dear to the hearts of the young people in the city of New Orleans, some attending McDonough 35, but clearly schools throughout the city. They said that they need more mental health services to meet them where they are, and we understand the need as well and how it plays out. So $10 million in a partnership, again with Children's Hospital, managed under the leadership of our health department, Dr. Avegno. This is a $10 million commitment over a 3-year period for all of our children will have access to mental health services, behavioral health services, again, in this city. It's a need, there was a gap, and we had to figure it out of how this city could do more, and we're putting the dollars right there. This is also being leveraged. Thank you for that, because it does matter. This also coincides with the Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit that we recently launched June the 1st. We did a slow roll prior to that. $1.9 million went into this, and this is, again, came from the community, really trying to be smart about how we meet our folks where they are relative to mental health services, freeing up our police officers from having to not to respond. Of course, if violence is a part of that, NOPD will, but the Mobile Crisis Intervention Unit, just in a short period of time, we're seeing it pay dividends on the streets of our city. And I'm gonna say this, you know, we've had over 290 calls since June the 1st, and very few, I mean, we can count literally one hand where they have been dispatched to the New Orleans Police Department. So that's a big deal, and you don't even have to think about the impact. When you look at the numbers, 290 calls, and fewer going to NOPD, that tells you that we're spending the money wisely and doing the right thing. We also anticipate an additional $450,000 in federal dollars, and this is also to expand our domestic violence advocacy initiative that, again, all alignment, being very smart about our approaches, because mental health, domestic violence, all these things tied to root causes that really touch many different areas of our people, whether that's homelessness, workforce, you name it, housing, you name it. You also wanted us to enhance the quality of life of our communities, of neighborhoods throughout the city. So we saw much money going into quality of life. We created the Office of Homeless Services and Strategy. We have Mr. Nathaniel Fields, who's joined our team. He hit the ground running. We have a plan of really wanting to execute a 10-year plan. Everybody loves you, Nate. Everybody loves you. You know what? You keep doing the work, you know, and as you are and as we are all aligned, we will see progress. And we're starting to see it already, but it's something that you have to continue to work on every single day. There will not become a point, I mean, oh, homelessness, we can check the box and forget about it. We're building systems in this city, systems of care that will live on beyond this administration, but will live continuously with the people of the city of New Orleans. We also saw sanitation. So we awarded 2 new solid waste contracts. Now, you know, you've heard the cries out in the community time and time again around waste, trash, you name it. And now today, I really don't hear much rumbling. We're not where ultimately we want to be. We'll get there, but I tell you, we're definitely not where we were. So the new contracts that we've onboarded, they're working. We have curbside recycling back, and we're just seeing the difference throughout the city. Always urging you to urge folks to clean this city up, meaning do your part as well. Don't trash the city. Put the trash in the trash can. A lot of this stuff people trash. They stop at the light, they throw out the door. They walk past the trash can, they throw it over here. You go in the neighborhood, they don't. These things can be solved collectively. We also saw not just 12 closings as it relates to Gordon Plaza. In June we did, but now we're pretty much to the completion of Gordon Plaza relative to buyouts. And this was only something that we could do because the city of New Orleans identified a project for the agricultural landfill. And that project has been supported and embraced by EPA, that therefore it's a real thing, that then allowed the city to move forward with purchasing land that also, I say, righted a wrong. So it was a win-win-win. So the city having a solar farm on the site and in that area of Gordon Plaza, again, is a win for this city. It will create the redundancy that we need as it relates to climate, which has already changed, but how we have to stand up against the crises relative to weather coming our way. But this is a big deal. Now, this has been on the plate of 5 other mayors, but we were able to get it done. Progress. Yeah. And it's not to be disparaging against anyone or any administration. It's just an example of sometimes, well, things just take time. And not only that, it does take some courage, and timing is everything, and you had some organizing going on, and all the love to the community who spoke for themselves and got what they know that they deserved and what they needed. The Office of Community Development, we saw this year, invest $2.8 million in CDBG dollars in soft seconds. This is helping our folks become homeowners in the city of New Orleans. We do see still a lot in terms of the home ownership growing very much in District D, but also in District E. Many of the soft seconds are awarded or have been awarded in District E. Folks are seeing District E as the place to live, as well as District D. We're seeing that. We also saw park and parkways planted over 1,164 trees, with many more to come. We have a goal of 40,000 trees. We're hopeful that we will get additional dollars from the USDA to do more planting. We know that a lot of stress is placed on our trees throughout this city, just in terms of how we have to brace ourselves with the storms that come our way, and how these trees help us with storm water management. It's very important. We invested over $41 million in city subsidies for affordable housing. There are 14 affordable housing projects that are going on right now, set to bring on about 1,500 units again in the city of New Orleans. We're investing, of course, in our infrastructure. That will continue to be a priority. And I would have to say, District D, you've seen not only a lot, but you've put up with a lot. But it's been progress. Thank you so much for what you've had to do, meaning to manage through the progress. I know, and I've always said, it's not painless, but we really try to make it as painless as possible. We learn as we do. We learn as we do. So we will always strive to do better every step. But I have to say, I'm so excited when I roll on around Elysian Fields. I'm like, this is the smoothest I've ever felt, you know? And then you expect to hit a dip, and you like, keep rolling. I'm like, oh, this is good. So it's a real thing. And so we're really starting now to see, I think, the progress, not only in District D, but throughout the city. But it takes time to get where we are. And it will take more time to get where we want to be, but we're not stopping, and the team over there works hard every day. So District D, you've had 51 projects, road work projects, estimated at about $190 million. We've seen 15 projects that are currently under construction right now. The councilman spoke about this, Joe and Sarah on the ground, making sure that these contractors are being held accountable. We do have some bad actors that we've had to hold accountable, and that will continue because we know what we deserve, and no one's doing us a favor by taking on these jobs, meaning we're paying good money. We know that we deserve a quality job, and we will not stop or rest until we get what we need for the city. Most recently, as of March 23, we know that $4.9 million in District D, that went to the Desire Multi-Service Center. We're excited about that. We secured $52.4 million. Now, this was a commitment that we got out of the Fair Share Agreement that I initiated in 2018, pulled off in 2019. But this is something that is paying dividends to this city every year. It's like, wow. I have to stop back and think, wow, I knew it was going to be impactful, but it really is impactful when I think about the power plant that's under construction right now. This is the Sewerage and Water Board West Power Plant Power Complex. This is something that we've needed for over 25 plus years in the city. We were able to pull it off. It's under construction. When our federal partners come to the site, they're like, oh my God, this is a real thing. The city of New Orleans is doing it, but the city of New Orleans is doing most infrastructure in the United States of America right now, especially as it relates to water. Smart meters, we've started the installation of those. Yes, it's a 3-year period. Yes, it takes that, but this will ultimately solve completely the billing issues that we have been experiencing. And really, we were experiencing them at a larger scale come 2018, 2019. You don't hear as much about it anymore because progress is being made, but the ultimate fix is the smart meters. And we will not have to wait 3 years before you see the impact. So as they're installed, you all will then be right into receiving not only accurate bills, but no longer the billing escalation. So that's what the smart metering is really all about, a game changer for the city of New Orleans. This also speaks to other improvements with the Carrollton Water Plant, the frequency changes and the like. This goes back to that fair share agreement and where we're able to make in real time shifts to even put more money into infrastructure, road work, and the like. We're expanding economic development projects. You know, we have the bio district, the TIF, the tax incremental district, that's passed. So that means that any development in that core of the city, taxes will be generated, but that will go back into the city. So meaning that we will be able to reinvest in ourselves to further expand and grow the bio-innovation in this city, meaning the city of New Orleans is on the front lines relative to technology, bioscience, right here in this city. Make no mistake about that, and we will continue to invest. The Office of Workforce Development, they participated in over 56 hiring events since July of this year. So Sune, your team, you're working tirelessly. Thank you so much. I know that you've also brought in, I would say, over 128 new employers to work with our workforce office to therefore hire people in the city of New Orleans. And these are permanent placement jobs, and we will not stop. We had more young people brought on this summer through Summer Success than we've seen really seen overall. We had some glitches relative to data to pay some of our young people, still dealing with 55 of our young people that had issues with their checks, but they will be made whole. They worked hard, and they will be paid in full complement. But what I said to my young people as I was with them speaking about this, they never wavered. They stayed coming to work. They did the job, and they will get paid. But what I did say to them, I said, listen, I remember those days a couple of times when my mom would come and say, you know what, I didn't get paid off. My full complement just wasn't in my check. And I thought like, yeah, right, she's trying to just telling us that, you know, it's not real. But then I experienced it myself working, and I've been working since 14. So as I've told our young people, part of it was to get work experience, and that was also some experience. Sometimes things happen, but you continue to show up. You continue to do that job, and guess what? You will be paid in full complement, but also paid in ways that are not even explainable right now because of that experience. We know that it matters. Also, as it relates to infrastructure, I'm going to say technology is a part of our infrastructure. You all know that we had that cyber attack, and we have been pushed into investing in technology faster than we anticipated, but we're so happy because we knew we needed to get there, and I tell you, work is really being done. And so the network security upgrades has increased our capacity, and we're continuing to work in that regard. We have a press conference coming up where we'll be talking about a $30 million project comprehensive to public safety, but these are steps that are moving in the right direction. Cultural economy, we saw them, $7 million go directly into the culture under the leadership of Ms. Lisa Alexis and that board of New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Fund. These were dollars also from that fair share that we were able to take and stop marketing our people and invest directly in the culture of this community, in our people. So thank you, Cultural Economy, for that. This year, they've awarded 249 grants, a total of $1.6 million, and we'll continue to see improvements there. $136 million in revenue from 26 films filmed in the city of New Orleans. We know that there are strikes going on, but we're ready. Again, when they get back to work, we're ready to absorb that work in the city. You know that the state film tax credit, we're happy about that, and that's extended to 2031. So that's a big deal. The Office of Youth and Families recently allocated the $21 million to early childhood. You know, you all helped us, you voted so that we would have a millage for early childhood. That then enabled us to get a match from the state of Louisiana, and that's putting more of our young children into early learning seats in the city. So when you talk about root causes and when you talk about public safety, when we educate our young people and we get them off to the best start, that's a way to ensure that this city is not only safer, but that this city is in shape for all of our people to reach their fullest potential. I also have to say that we have launched our universal home visit that will launch this week. That's where all babies born in the city of New Orleans, 3,000 almost annually, those moms, those families will get a visit by a registered nurse within that first week going home. You know that mortality rates in terms of our women in giving birth, we are leading in this state, but really leading in this country, and that's why we're putting the resources where they need to go. We have $900,000 that was allocated to our pathways and our summer success program, but these are young people that we've engaged that have either crossed the line or close to the line, but again, meeting them where they are so that we can turn them around and have them pivot into a different direction that is more fruitful for them and for the city of New Orleans. We're just continuing to do the work. Now, I've talked a lot, it seems. I have directors who are here that will be able to share more information, but we will do that as we get into Q&A. And so I would like, Camille, if you can start that process now. And before I ask for the first question, Gilbert Montano, our CAO that I did not introduce, who needs no introduction, talked about the staffing, which, hey, we're all here. But Gilbert, anything you need to add before we get to Q&A? No. Come over here. Well, yeah, you come here, come back.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple minutes, mainly thank yous, because I know what it goes into creating a venue like this and the work behind the scenes that goes into this. So thank you for the Mayor's team for putting this all together. I think it is an important opportunity for the community to be able to be heard directly by the Mayor's leadership team, of course, the directors. Thank you, Councilmember Green, for your partnership. Thank you, Mayor Cantrell, for your leadership. I can always say privately and publicly, she's always supported so many new changes. And sometimes in New Orleans, we have a fear of loss when it comes to change, and often change just equates to something better, but we have a little pain point going through that process. And most importantly, the team. There is unfettered arena challenges that we've faced. Some are newer and some have been there from the beginning, and I just want to highlight and really buttress what the mayor said about the long-standing efforts you all put in day day out. I think that we don't know what's ultimately going to become or result that we have gone through over the last 5 years through COVID and all the different machinations of change that we've had to deal with. But there are servant leaders here that care so much about the city for not just the short term, but the long term. And I know, Mayor, you inspire the entire group to keep trugging along, even when times get the most difficult. So thank you for that. Thank you for the community. We're here to listen. We have not built the budget. I want to highlight what the mayor said. This is ground zero. We will not be building the budget based on any tax increases, and I know sometimes they're going through a whole assessment process right now. Typically, and in other circumstances, you'll build the budget based on a potential roll forward by the city council, and the administration is not even going to be building any form of the budget with any kind of tax increase. So I think that's an important factor that she's passed on to her financial team and myself so that we can along with other New Orleans residents, experience the benefit of not having another cost increase relative to our taxes. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it over to the moderator, and thank you again for your leadership.
Thank you. Okay, we will go ahead and start with the Q&A session. I will read the questions off of the card in regards to the different categories that we have that include public safety, infrastructure, quality of life, economic development, et cetera. Okay, Madam Mayor, let us begin. Number one, thank you for responding to my email. On behalf of Pontchartrain Park Neighborhood Association and the New Orleans tennis community, we would like consideration for the allocation of funds in the budget for capital projects for complete overhaul of 10 tennis courts in Pontchartrain Park. If this happens, it will bring tremendous opportunities to host national, regional, and statewide tournaments, which will be an additional revenue stream for the city. Is this possible? We need your support.
Okay. All right, thank you for the question, and yes, I did get the email. I think you sent that today. Yeah, Gretchen. Where's Gretchen? Oh, there you are. Yeah, absolutely. So, and I did respond, and I said, yes, one thing about it, we do understand the need to improve and invest in the tennis courts. We've seen development happening and investments around it, and that's almost like the last thing to do. But let me tell you this. The public approved you all in November of 2019 bond sale, the highest ever in the city of New Orleans, $500 million. Right, that was our gap that we were going to use to do some of these projects, capital improvements and the like. When we passed that, when you all passed it handsomely, there was no expectation of the city of New Orleans have to spend an average of about $80 million now on a mental health facility for the jail. Okay. The judge has mandated that the city of New Orleans move forward with building the jail. So what we had to do was pull money from projects that we wanted to have redeveloped throughout the city. That was one of the projects, the tennis courts, on the list. So the city of New Orleans, and even with the councilman, we see it as a priority. We want to do it. The issue is the money. Now, while the city of New Orleans pulled dollars or redirected dollars from these capital improvements to satisfy the mandate to build this mental health facility, meaning with the jail that would accompany or provide services to about 43 inmates. We're in a stage right now to where if this doesn't move forward as fast as it needs to, meaning building this facility, then the city of New Orleans will then be in trouble with not spending the bond money fast enough, and then we're in trouble with the Internal Revenue Service, because all these things are on deadline, okay? So where I am right now with my leadership team, I'm saying, listen, the city of New Orleans cannot in any way default on these bond dollars that we know that we want to receive, that one we need, and we don't want to run into any foul with the Internal Revenue Service, nor hold this money hostage for a mental health facility that is it's on hold in some aspects. And then over budget, it's just a mess. But what I've charged my team with doing, and I know that they've also met with the councilman, is that we're wanting to relook at that list and see what can we go move forward on to shift that money from the mental health facility to now more projects. So that's where the city of New Orleans is right now. So I don't have an answer, for you to say if it's going to get done or if it's not. But what I do know and what I can say is that I will not have the city run afoul with the IRS relative to the bonding capacity that we have. And we're in good financial footing. We have projects and needs throughout the city of New Orleans, one that you mentioned. And so more to come on that, but I know it's a long answer, but it's worth sharing because it's real. You can't make this up. So the city of New Orleans, meaning under my leadership, I've done everything that we're supposed to do to satisfy the mandate of the judge. We moved forward with design, all of that, right? And it came back from 40 million up to 80 million. And of course, you understand what's going on now with the sheriff, with the council, and the like. We're pretty much on the same side, but at the same time, I'm making sure that we do what the city is supposed to do relative to that mandate coming down from the judge, being respectful every step of the way. But it does hurt.
Okay, next question. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Try not to be too long. I can talk.
Question number 2. The Malia needs operational funding for its new economic development center needed to bring resources to our neighborhood assistance to poor and moderate folks in our area. Our children need a community center. The community center will provide activity for our elderly as well. Thank you for all that you do for our area. So in short, Madam Mayor, is funding possible for economic development center? Can we get resources for poor and moderate income folks in the area and a community center for the children?
So this goes to a capital project again. There are some projects that we may be able to move forward depending on how we manage through this mental health facility that we're being mandated to build. But again, I'm not going to run afoul with the IRS. I'm going to make sure we're not holding money because we have to spend the money in a timely manner. Anything to add on this? Anything to add on it? Oh, not you, Councilman. Only if you want to. I'm talking about my people.
Well, no, it was just that it was so specific to Malia, and I just want to just echo what you said, that we certainly have obligations relative to the IRS, but I do want to let the residents of Malia know that, as I've mentioned to Ms. Jackson, I'm going to do what I can to assist. I recognize that that's such an important community, and it's also such an important community center that you have right now. I think that there's ways to identify funding that could support some of the operations. But I do want to say this. I want to encourage you all to reach out to Southern University, the School of Social Work, which has a great success, a great history of success in applying for grants that could provide some of the social services that you need. We'll talk about it, okay?
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else? Gilbert, anything to add?
Just to take, I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think one of the mayor's key priorities besides public safety and infrastructure, quality basic service, is economic development, and I heard that peppered through that question. So I know Jeff is here from our economic development department, and I'd love maybe just to give him a minute or two to talk about some of the important initiatives that we have. As we know, as New Orleans is going to thrive and succeed, we need a foundational opportunity, and I think there's been some strong leadership from the mayor and the council as well to provide economic engines to allow for population growth and overall viability.
Absolutely. Jeff Swartz, you can stay right there and just speak to the people.
Thanks, Mayor. Can you guys hear me? It's live. Yeah, so I would love to hear more about the Economic Development Center project that the Amelia community has envisioned. Love to follow up on that after the meeting. Thank you, Gilbert and the mayor and council member. It's true. I think we, in the city know that we need to diversify our economy. And I think that one of the things, in addition to the day-to-day activities of the department supporting small businesses and working with residents to make sure that their quality of life is being met and that they're accessing the services they need at the city, one of the things that keeps me up at night is thinking about how are we growing jobs in the city? How are we diversifying our economic base? And the best way that I can describe it is not that we need to see tourism and hospitality go away in the city. We just need it to be a smaller share of a growing pie in the city. And so some of those things that get me very excited are things like film, which I know Lisa Alexis here leads the Office of Cultural Economy, where the film office is located. How many of you knew that the city of New Orleans is the 4th largest film production hub in the country? Where in Lisa's shop, they permitted over $1 billion of economic activity in Orleans Parish alone. So we're behind only Atlanta, LA, and New York in terms of film production. There's over 2,000 unionized members that, up until the strike, like the mayor mentioned, work and live in our community every single day. We need to be supporting industries like that are low barrier, high wage, high career pathway industries. One of the other things that gets me very excited on a day-to-day basis is offshore wind. How many of you have heard that the first leases in state and federal waters for offshore wind are happening this year? The August 29th, actually, the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina is going to be when the first offshore wind leases happen off the state of Louisiana. Those are industries that our residents, our citizens can actually participate in, whether you're interested in STEM education, whether you're interested in working on energy rigs offshore, if you're interested in manufacturing. These are career pathways that exist for so many of our residents that we want to make sure they're connected. And so we actually work very closely with Sune and her team at the Office of Workforce Development to make sure that we're connecting residents to those workforce pathways in these priority industries. The list goes on and on. Like the mayor said, biosciences and healthcare. One of my favorite sayings of the mayor is that we pick up cans that have been kicked down the road for generations. The bio district was one that the bio district itself was actually created in 2005 on the eve of Hurricane Katrina. No one actually created a funding mechanism to actually connect folks to opportunities in the bio district around where the new hospitals are for 17 years. And it was this administration that actually got that actually through the city council in partnership with council. And so across the board in all of these different industries, that is the work of economic development to make sure that we're growing the job base, growing the tax base, connecting folks to opportunity, and we're really here in partnership. So looking forward to rolling up my sleeves on that front, and especially with the residents of District D. So.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And one of the things that Jeff didn't speak about was us growing out the NASA Michoud campus. And so Gulf Wind was a company that came to New Orleans a couple of years ago to start, but has scaled. Gulf Wind was then purchased by General Electric, and those who are building windmills happening in this city right now, and they are being provided globally. So these are things that your city, like we're doing it right now. It's not happening everywhere else, but it's happening here. And so they're real jobs, and they're for our people. In the Office of Workforce Development, I know Sune can connect you as well as Jeff, but we will work with you, Malia, relative to economic development and your center. So let's think about things that we can do on the front end while we also grow your capacity for operating and the like. Ms. Camille.
Thank you, Mayor. Reminder, if you have questions, now's the time to raise your hand and to get a card. Folks here in the aisles ready to present you with a card if need be. Okay, Madam Mayor, next question. It's a very specific question, but it goes to the Lot Next Door program. How can we purchase a lot located at 4725 Babylon? We've been maintaining it for the last 10 years. The association is interested in gaining ownership.
Okay, so the Lot Next Door, I have Tom here. I'm pretty sure Tom took down that address. I did as well, and we'll be able to speak with you directly about that particular parcel. But we are definitely interested not only in Lot Next Door, but motor owned and the like. Tom is going to the mic, and I'm going to turn it over to Tom to respond.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Mulligan, Director of Code Enforcement. So this is a new program, MOTA Own. If there's a blighted lot, a vacant lot adjacent to your property that you've been taken care of, or you want to take care of, and you do that for a year, you can then gain ownership over that property. So this is a project that was piloted earlier in the administration. We had really great feedback on it, and so now it's been broadened, and there are more properties available. It's cheaper to take care of it and get it ownership over it. But it really is a lot by lot, address by address basis. So there has to be there's legal complications. There has to be some issues of adjudication to the city that we just have to sort through. But if anyone is interested in that and is aware of a lot that might qualify, get in touch with Code Enforcement, let us know the address, and we'll tell you how you do it or the path that lot might come to at some point in the future where it would be eligible.
And one of the things that I will just share as well, like yesterday I had a meeting with the Eastover Property Owners Association. And in Eastover, they were able to identify upward of 6 parcels in their area that are adjudicated to the city. Of course, they're privately owned, they're not maintained and the like. Well, I have Tom and his team working through that adjudication process in a way that I'm very much supportive of the owner, meaning the homeowner association, receiving those parcels to further advance and redevelop Eastover. So I'm using that as an example of how the city of New Orleans is just really wanting to be intentional. And Tom is right. It's parcel by parcel, meaning there's no we got to look at it. have to look to see where it is in our process. Is it adjudicated? Is it now post-adjudication? So these are things that we're committed to doing, and we do understand that working with neighborhood organizations is a way to go. Hey, that's where I come from. So I know, and that's really where I came up with the Motor-Owned program on the city council, getting it passed, because it's something that I advocated for at the community level when I was leading Broadmoor. So things just go. Ms. Camille.
Okay, this one is a case of demolition, specifically 4832 Majestic Oaks. My church, Creation Full Gospel, was demolished by a tornado in 2022. The city charged me money for trash hauling. I would like to have a breakdown of that case on those charges. The gas needs to be reinstalled as well there along Majestic Oaks. It was taken out when a new street was installed. Also, we have potholes on Majestic Oaks. This speaks to DPW, Madam Mayor, and road work.
Okay, so Majestic Oaks, and Camille, give me that address again.
4833, 4832.
Okay. 32. All right, and a breakdown of trash hauling or expenses relative to that, as well as gas lines, reinstallation there, and mentioning of potholes, Majestic Oaks, just that whole area.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Well, one, we know that that's something that has to be provided to you, and I've taken it down, and the team will do that. We have Joe, we have Sarah here as well. Majestic Oak, we know in terms of where investments will go in terms of infrastructure. I also know that Majestic Oak is an area where we will be doing some work. The issue is for me providing you with the timeline right now. The team has it, and we'll get back. Anything else to add on that, Sarah? Joe, Sarah, anything to add? Yes, no, maybe so? Oh, okay. I see Sarah doing that right now. Okay, very good. But I know that there's work coming to Majestic Oaks. I just need to know in that 3800 block, but regardless, it's on our list, but we'll get you more information. And of course, on the gas installation and the trash hauling. And what's the name of the church again?
This is Creation Full Gospel.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, Ms. Camille.
Okay, this is our last call for questions. Is there any further questions from the audience? Seeing none, is there anything, Madam Mayor, that you want to touch on that you haven't already? Oh, yes, sir. Oh, okay.
Mr. Burnside.
Okay, we are going to do comments at the end. Okay. Questions first, please.
And you can read Mr. Burnside's comment.
Okay.
Save him up. Save him an email he has to send.
This one, Madam Mayor, please fill the streets. We're talking about 1700 block of St. Ferdinand potholes. Also, we need drainage in the 16th, 17th, and 18th block of, I'm assuming St. Bernard, I'm not sure. St. Ferdinand, thank you very much.
St. Ferdinand, okay.
Street drainage
Street
and
dra-
potholes,
Got it.
once again.
Okay. I got that. Any other questions, comments before we come to a close? Any of the leadership that's here, any comments that you would like to make relative to the hard work that you're doing every day on behalf of the city? Joe, I see your hand. Sometimes I feel like Joe is Joe Clark. They used to call me Batman. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to add a comment to concern the bond sales. Although we're tied up with the OJC medical facility, moving bond funds from those projects to the facility, we are working feverishly right now. That bond sale we started working on in 2020 for $500 million. The first tranche was $300 million. We're working to sell the other $200 million right now. So by the end of the year, we should have cash in the bank, $200 million, and those projects that we took money for to fund the medical facility will go on that list to be funded toward the first of the year.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. And, you know, the first sale we did, the city's credit rating was so stellar. We saw a premium, you know. So we saw a premium over maybe close to $70 million. So we got a little bit more bang for our buck. Now, we know with inflation, things are a little bit different, but we also are just starting to see, you know, we went through a period in 2022, even 2023, where we would get either no responses to bids that we put out, or we would get one response, or we would get responses where the budget was increased anywhere from 47% to 97%. And so now we're starting to see kind of things change. We're seeing more people are responding to the bids, but then we're also are seeing some of the pricing coming down. So we believe, again, we're moving in the right direction relative to that as well. We're wanting your money to go as far and wide as possible. Ms. Camille.
Okay. I'm interested to know how much investigation and research goes into the funding of the charter school system. Also, are there plans to invest more into the school system? Many schools complain of being underfunded and lack of resources due to funding. Has any funding been allocated for data analysis, research of our school system, a pilot system here, post-Katrina, especially in the wake of an increase of youth violence? As we know, if children are not properly educated or given life skills at an early age, they will not be equipped for future opportunities like college and the workforce.
Well, you know that the city of New Orleans does not manage schools in the city. We know that the local school board, the Orleans Parish School Board, does exist, but we also know that we're a system of schools. The schools are independently ran, and so there is no unified school district. This has had an impact on the educational attainment and opportunities for students and families throughout the city of New Orleans, no doubt about it. I believe that it's also had an impact relative to violent crime that we've seen, social engagement and the like. But what we will do, meaning city government, and through the Office of Youth and Families that I started by executive order, we will continue to engage the school system at every level, even with all of those managers, no doubt. We'll continue to work with them and advocate for services particularly relevant to truancy. That's my priority. We, engaged them on last year for the school year. I didn't feel like I don't believe that it resulted in what I had hoped for, meaning more of our young people going to school in a timely manner, and even our school system responding to the needs of our young people that were not in a seat in a school. And so it is our goal in preparing for the upcoming school year to focus on truancy in partnership with, and of course, working with all stakeholders relative to providing a quality and a holistic and comprehensive education. So although it's not my responsibility, it's not my authority, I do believe that I have a role to play in terms of being responsible, and that will be through efforts through the Mayor's Office of Youth and Families. Asia Howlett is here. Is there anything that you would want to add to this, what we're doing and the like?
Well, I'm not sure if y'all can y'all hear me pretty well? Okay. I will say that when Mayor says that we are invested in, can y'all hear me? Okay, here we go. Mayor's investment is not just like we want to see accountability. She actually made sure that there was $400,000 that was put aside to support with truancy. So this is something that we are financially supporting, making happen. I do want to say that one of the major pieces of this is getting all players in our city to engage with NOLA PS in this process. And so a piece of that is our juvenile court judges, right? So there's more than just council, it's more than just mayor. There are other entities that also need to be fair players in this space. So that is actually something that our office is working on. So We are more than happy to continue to give updates on that work. So if you look out for our newsletter, but also I'm thinking about a press release that will come out just to give updates on that work. So thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Asia.
All right, next question. First of all, thank you for holding these meetings, but we cannot progress as a city unless flooding is reduced. Any movement on that?
Yeah, there's a lot of work and movement on flooding throughout the city of New Orleans, and particularly improvements that we've seen firsthand over the past 3+ years. We see that not only have we received, in terms of rainfall, more inches than ever before, but we've also seen fewer flooding incidents in the city of New Orleans. So there's a direct correlation between the money that we're spending on infrastructure and the flood mitigation and practices that we are seeing throughout the city. Yes, this will continue to be a priority. It has to be, because climate has already changed and things are not going to get better anytime soon. So it means that we have to do better with making sure that we invest these dollars, being very strategic in where we invest them. District D has seen a lot of investment, particularly in regards, to our resilience districts. Over 140 million being invested in creating these systems, meaning systems of how water flows, freeing that water up from going directly into the drains, making sure that we're using our bioswales, we're using canals, we're using our parks, we're creating blue areas, in terms of where you can sit out nicely when it's nice, and then you get out of the way because it's going to collect the water when it rains. When I have seen residents say, when the work started, well, I don't want this, I don't know, to the rain coming and them seeing in real time how it mitigates. So the map has changed, it's turned around. So our residents are really now starting to see the improvements. Now, there's still more to go, a lot to be done. But the fact of the matter is, we're not flooding at the levels and at the capacities even that we were 5 years ago. While rainfall hasn't slowed down, the inches that we receive haven't slowed. They've come harder and they've come faster. So we'll continue to make those investments and leverage with the federal dollar as well. This city is in a prime position to receive additional federal dollars from the Bipartisan Act, and we're going after every dollar, and we're able to demonstrate in real time that the city is doing the work, the city is spending federal money, we're spending it right. And this, I'm telling you, it's bringing others to the city of New Orleans, meaning federal partners, to see how we're doing it, and your city is a model for this type of infrastructure. And so we need to own that and keep it going. And what I will say to that, help us get to people, asking them not to litter in the city of New Orleans, because that helps with flooding, mitigate flooding as well. If the more debris that we can get out of catch basins, the better off we are. Trash bags, these plastic bags, and all these different things that we can free ourselves from going into drains, we should be doing that. And that's something that doesn't cost us anything. Put it in the trash, but it does cost the city a lot of money to do the cleanups that we know you all want to see. Ms. Camille.
Okay, contractors began work in front of my office before COVID-19, before it hit, and they have not come back to finish the sidewalk in front of my 2 buildings. This is on Downman Road, 7311, 7301. I tried calling 311, no success, getting the contractors to finish. Any help?
Sure. So when you call 311, you're registering and you're logging a complaint and an issue. It's the departments that receive that information and therefore work with the contractors and the like to actually provide that level of service. So it's not 311 going out to fix it. It's 311 receiving the information and making sure it gets to the right place and to the right people and even at the right time. 7311, 7301 Downman Road is the address. And so what we'll do is look into that. I know Sarah's taking it down now. It sounds like the work was completed, but the sidewalks have not been replaced. But we'll have Joe already know, they're gonna go and take a look at it, and we'll be able to provide you with an update in regards to the sidewalks being repaired and replaced. Ms. Camille?
All right. I do not agree with my public servants. The millages need to be allowed to roll forward. The cost of the riverfront for all has doubled. Rents have gone up. City employees need a yearly COLA. We've cut our garbage collection in half. Our city needs local tax base growth. We rely on federal tax money way too much.
Well, I say that we rely on federal tax dollars. We rely on sales tax dollars in the city of New Orleans. And what I will say is that we have been fiscally prudent and sound to the point where we're seeing a growth relative to our revenue, but also fund balance, but getting back to where not only we were, but doing more, even with less. I don't believe that the time is now to roll forward. I believe that we have to give ourselves some time, not only to catch up, but also for our residents as a whole. This is something that we can continue to discuss, but I will say right now, I'm not changing relative to the roll forward. I believe now is not the time to do that, and with the resources that we have and we're deploying, and we do it right, as we've been doing, I believe that we'll be better off. Give ourselves another year. Give us to 24. Give us through 25. And then at that point, go and revisit. But it is my goal, to get us through and to take the burden off of our people the best we can. I just believe that.
This last one, Madam Mayor, is a comment which you did already touch on, but I will read it in case there is anything you'd like to add. Treat our children better. They are staying off the streets, trying to do the right thing, working to help support themselves. Please pay them on time, like each and every one of you would like to be paid on time.
Sure, I thank you for that. And you know what? Things do happen, and unfortunately it happened. We had more young people being employed in the city of New Orleans than we've seen. We went deep and we went extra, and that was also in partnership with the New Orleans City Council. Our young people, some did experience, meaning their checks that they did not receive on time. We have 55 that are still in the queue, but in hopes and in the process of being paid fully. But I would have to say, treating our children well is educating our children and giving them an opportunity to learn soft skills and real work experience in fields that they're interested in is something that I will say is a step in treating our children well. When you interact with those young people like I do, I go straight to them and I talk straight to them, tell them why it happened, and also appreciate and love on them from staying the course, staying focused, because that's what they'll have to do, not only as children, but as adults. And so with that, I've been working since 14. So I understand work experience, and it's because of those experiences, I think that I've been able to value and appreciate, and of course with family, valuing the work ethic to just do the job. And our children really are the future of this city. So they need to learn that, things do happen, but also at the same time, learn that their city cares for them. And so I think that we've demonstrated that. We will continue to do that, but giving them more opportunity to learn, to grow, and to thrive. And again, if it could have been prevented, if I could have gotten in there and turned it around immediately, I would have done that. But lessons learned, information now we have, and it's being input into the system correctly, and our young people will be better. But like my finance officer, my CFO yesterday, Norm, he came to my office and he said, well, Mayor, we just got to make sure, next year we're building it better right now for next year, and it's right. So we're not thinking about waiting for ways that we can improve, but you have to understand this. The city of New Orleans, when we came into office 5 years ago, we had 4 different operating systems. None of them talked to one another. We couldn't tell you who was paid, what time, who still needed it or the like, because the systems did not talk. Under Norm's leadership and that of our directors, we said, you know what, this city can't wait any longer. We're going to have to do it, meaning an overhaul, and have a system that talked. And we did that. It wasn't sexy, but it was necessary. And because of that, we're much better off than we were, but we're also able to build this system that will work for this city long time and for the long haul. So this is something that a glitch, and also in terms of data entry and civil codes and the like, that is being rectified, but we're going to be in a better position as we provide opportunities for our young people next year. So again, work in progress, but we're nowhere where we were. We're better off than we were. And it takes time, you know, but it's necessary. Anything to add on that? Go ahead, Joe. Okay.
Okay, and so I just want to say, good evening, everyone. Sine Bolavaso. As the mayor stated, we are working diligently to make sure that each and every youth that enrolled in the program, we were funded for 1,040. Over 800 have been paid. We're working with the difference to make sure that they're paid and making sure that they're getting in, providing us with the application and the necessary documents so that they can be paid. We have to be held accountable for the money that we expend, your tax dollars, and so we want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do on our end and make sure that those students are being paid. So I guarantee you, every hour that they worked, they will be compensated for that work.
Yep. But I also tell you, the experience they gain outweighs the money that they will receive. And that's what it's all about as well. Miss Mary Kincaid, she's the best. She's a rock star in stormwater management for the city. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Joe, for allowing me to piggyback on that earlier comment about flooding. I just want to pick up on what the mayor was saying and give you all a little bit of specificity on what we have going on with flooding reduction. So we currently have 2 projects that are in construction that are going to be storing millions of gallons of stormwater. One is right here in this neighborhood by the Oak Park High School. So we have these projects that they're currently in construction. Speaking of the Resilience District, we have projects that are going to be going into construction later this year and early next year. So we'll be fulfilling that promise. The $141 million will be fulfilling that promise and making sure that those projects go forward and go into construction, that they're completed, and that you get those flooding reduction benefits. Now, the mayor also mentioned that Gentilly, in particular, had seen a lot of these projects, but I also want to let you know that we are expanding that. So using some of the offshore oil revenue money that recently started coming to the city, we're going to be able to look at projects in other neighborhoods that have not previously received one of the federally funded either hazard mitigation or the resilience projects. So we're actively meeting right now with community organizations that are already developing projects. So I encourage you to reach out to Roadwork NOLA and ask to be connected to the Stormwater Group if you'd like to talk with us about a project in your neighborhood. So we're meeting with community organizations. We're looking at where we have repetitive loss, so where properties become flooded again and again. And we're looking at bringing the same things that you're seeing, what's already been constructed, the flooding reduction that has been seen in Pontilly, for example, from the hazard mitigation project. We're looking at bringing that to other neighborhoods using our other funding sources. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention is continuing on what we're doing and being strategic. You can't have a strategy. You can't be strategic if you don't have a strategy. So New Orleans Homeland Security is getting ready to advertise to renew what's called our hazard mitigation plan. I can tell you that they are centering community engagement and equity in that planning process. The plan that they're updating was the first multi-jurisdictional plan, and they're going to be updating it again, working with our partners around us, working with other parishes, working with the universities and other large campuses, so that not only are we being strategic, but we're being strategic and we're making sure that we use our resources wisely, because we're working in conjunction with those around us and those that affect us. I hope that that's encouraging to everyone. I'm certainly excited about what we have, not just going into construction, but also what we're planning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much. Ms. Camille?
I think as we begin to wrap, Madam Mayor, we have no further questions. I do have a comment I'm going to close out on.
Okay.
I think this would be a good note for you to go out on.
Okay.
And also, I just want to remind everyone, there is a survey that was provided to you all. Please do fill those out and complete and submit those before the end of the meeting. Also, department heads and a lot of folks from the city will be in the lobby if you have further questions, okay? Final question, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you, Madam Mayor, for your servant leadership. How do you rate our progress on a scale of 1 to 10 in the city of New Orleans?
Progress, rating it, City of New Orleans, given everything that we have been through, particularly over the past 5 years, and under my administration, more challenges as well as things that have come our way than any other mayor has faced quietly in our history. I would rate how we're doing. I would give us a 7. I really would. I would give us a 7, and I give us a 7 because throughout all of it, throughout it all, no one stopped working, but not only that, we've just seen steady progress. And when I think about how we're rated nationally and even globally, based on what we're doing in the city of New Orleans, it really makes me proud. And what I will encourage you to do as residents of the city of New Orleans, really embrace the fact that the glass is not half empty, it is half full. And see yourselves in filling the glass. You're a part of the progress of this city. You have to be a part of the progress in this city if we're wanting to see this city reach her fullest potential for all of us and for our children and the like. But it doesn't happen without you, and it does not happen without the men and women who have said yes to service and show up every day to deliver that service. So I will end by asking you again to thank the men and women that I depend on and the thousands that show up on our behalf to do the work. So please give it up for department leadership. Thank you again, councilmen, for your participation. Thank you, residents, for showing up. We appreciate you. And thank you again to the tireless work that you all do on behalf of the city and within the Cantrell administration. What'd you say, Kim? I said 10. Oh, 10? Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I'm being modest because, you know, after this, I'll be beat up in the press and the media. So if I said 10, you know, you're damned if you do. You're just damned if you don't. So we will continue to do. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.